I can't help it that I look good, smell good, woo, can dance all night long.
You've been talking to the apes and the giraffes and chimpanzees again, haven't you?
Yes, I'm excited.
Good evening, everybody. Fast Freddie here, coming to you live from the Youngstown studio in beautiful downtown Youngstown. And man, do we have a show tonight. Just look at this crew here. You know, just by looking at this crew, it's going to be great. The star of our show tonight is Amil Dinsio, and Amil is known as the greatest bank burglar in the world. Not just in Youngstown, Ohio, not just in the United States, in the world. And also with me, we got two other special guests. We have Johnny Ciccatelli, and he's a film producer and a crime podcaster. And James Naples is also here, and he also has a very successful crime podcast going. A lot of it's based on Youngstown. So let's start with Johnny, and then we'll go with James, and then we'll get to the star of the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the crime scene and some of the projects that you've worked on and the movies and everything, because you're really into it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't want to spend the whole hour or whatever talking about that, but it's a complicated, long story. But I've been doing this stuff for over 20 years now. Just been researching. This guy right here was the first person I ever started to really research 20 years ago. I don't know if you know that, Amil. I never even told him, but I was in film school in Orlando, Florida. I was like 18 years old, and a producer documentarian came in and gave a class and started talking about true stories that nobody really knows about and things that, those are great fodder for documentaries. And I started to think, there's so many of those stories back home with Youngstown that nobody really outside of Youngstown can appreciate or know. And I started to internet research at age 18, searching what I could find on Youngstown and some of the true crime history. And one of the first things that popped up was an article on Amil Dinsio and the his crew and their heists. Most famously their Laguna Niguel heist.
Right.
And that was, I'll never forget, I went to Boom Boom Mancini when I got to California at like 20 years old. And I said, okay, Ray, I think we should do a movie about this heist in California. And he said, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And I it was a long, complicated story. I got a hold of this author in Keith Sharon, this guy who was a newspaper reporter in California. And I offered to, make the movie with him. I said, we could write the screenplay. And instead he pulled a screenplay out of his pocket, out of his bag, and he put it on the thing and said, I've been trying to sell it for a couple of years now.
Wow.
And eventually that movie ended up coming out finally a couple of years ago now.
That Finding Steve McQueen one.
They changed the title.
Finding Steve McQueen.
They changed the
I
title.
had nothing to do with that one. That was my nephew.
Uh-huh.
He got slick with somebody out there, and
Yeah.
that's why they did it.
Yeah.
But I followed that project through the years because I thought, man, that's an easy made movie. How you can't mess that story up, and of course they did, because they didn't tell it from Amil's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they dropped the ball on that movie.
Right.
So when the movie comes out, the real movie, Amil's story, it's going to be from Amil's perspective.
Well, here's what I told him. My daughter, Amy Jo, she lives out in Las Vegas. She told me on the phone, she said, hey, do you know they're making some kind of movie on you? I said, what? I said, who's that doing that? And she said, with Harry. I said, you're kidding me.
That's his nephew.
So I got hold of the producer out there, and I told him, in fact, I wrote him and I got the letters and everything. And I told Harry too. I said, listen, you was never in the vault. I said, you were monitoring the radios. You guys say anything about what happened in that vault, I'm going to sue you. And that was about it, I put a little scare to him there anyhow. But it didn't do no good. I asked Keith Sharon one time after that they did it all, I said,
the screenwriter.
how could you give a movie a name like that, Finding Steve McQueen?
Yeah, really.
To Keith's credit, it was not his fault, because the script that he showed me in back in 2005 was called "Hail to the Thief." I thought that's a decent.
Yeah,
that
now
was a,
that right, because with the Nixon thing, the Nixon tie that we'll get to and everything, so that would be the perfect title.
Would have been a better title. I
Right,
agree.
right,
I agree.
right.
But you know, if you want to watch, we actually let Amil watch Finding Steve McQueen, and we recorded his kind of reaction to it. That's on our YouTube channel.
We'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, find us Amazing Podcast Company. That's on our channel over there. But we've got Amil's reaction to that movie, which is pretty funny.
Well,
And so then you went on from there, and then you still put a project together about Youngstown.
Oh yeah. So eventually, the idea I pitched to Ray Mancini, good guy out there in California, a Youngstown native, in the film business, kind of my only connection.
Right.
Was I grew up down the street from Jack Lowe's sister, who put us in touch with Boom Boom, and that was the way to go. And I pitched him that, doing a documentary on Youngstown, and eventually he called me back and he said, let's do that idea. And we made a movie called Youngstown Still Standing with Ed O'Neill and a bunch of other people, Kelly Pavlik's in it, back in 2010. And after that, I ended up getting hired at Fox Sports, worked out there in California for a few years, still making movies, writing screenplays, doing all that stuff. And eventually I came back here to Youngstown to do more movies.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, the movie business changed. Right around that time, podcasting became a big deal.
Yeah.
And suddenly it was easier to get a podcast made than a movie,
Right.
And before you knew it, I ended up working with Mark Smerling on Crooked City, and we did the Crooked City podcast. And that's kind of where I eventually ended up meeting Amil through, and here we are. A couple of years later now, we're about to do our show, our February 9th at the Robbins Theater.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Now, for people that are just joining us, I see Jay Bird wants to know what's up tonight. For people that are just tuning in, we have a great show here this evening. With me is two crime podcasters here. We've got Johnny Ciccatelli, we've got James Naples, and we've got a man that many say is the greatest bank burglar of all time, Amil Dinsio. And you're going to get a chance to meet Amil at the Robbins Theater coming up on Friday night, right? That's this Friday,
yes,
the 9th?
Yes.
And so we were just talking here a little bit with Johnny. Now, James, tell us a little bit about your podcast and some of the stuff that you got going on, because you got some stuff really rocking and have been. You got a pretty big following.
Yeah, so we've Johnny and we met actually through work. WKBN. I was a overnight photographer. He was a producer there. And everybody thought we had already known each other because we were both big into the mob history and all that kind of stuff. And he was just on the tail end of Crooked City. And I said, hey, why don't we do something here with all this history we have here?
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to create a Facebook group called Youngstown Mob. And that thing's taken off. We're over 31,000 members now.
Right.
And so me and him, we've been doing the Youngstown Mob Talk Lives and just, talking about mob history here in the Valley. And it's just taken off, and it's opened up great things for us, and allowed us to do this show with Amil, which is awesome. I'm excited about it. So, everybody out there, make sure you come out Friday night, Robbins Theater, and come see Amil. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and make sure you follow you guys on Facebook too, because you get into some spirited discussions on there sometimes. Some of the stuff that gets said on that it gets some people pissed off a little bit, and it's some interesting conversations on there.
Absolutely. Sometimes Johnny and I, we got to kind of step in and kind of lower the tempo in the room, but people, they once we get in there and say, hey, let's calm this down a little bit, they're usually pretty good about it. We don't have too many problems.
So they could check that out. And the name of that again is
Youngstown Mob. It's the Facebook group.
Right.
And then we also run the Pittsburgh Mob Facebook group as well. Okay. So they can get 2 for 1 there.
Awesome. Now let's get to Amil. Now, Amil, you weren't in the mob, were you? You were just your own guy, right?
No, I just knew a few of them.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine in that line of work that you're going to come across some guys that
well, like Lenny Strollo.
Mm-hmm.
I knew him since I was 13 years old. My dad had the place there at the Calla Road, at 165 there. And then they closed the lake off and stopped all the traffic coming out of Bessemer, Pennsylvania. And that's when the restaurant went down.
Mm-hmm.
But Briar Hill Jimmy, and there was a sheriff, I forget his name. But anyhow, they had good connections. And he had the one-armed bandits in the back room. I was just a young kid. Lenny Stroller would come to fix the gambling bingos and all that. And if the rolls were short a few pennies, he'd give me the rolls right to the back room and run armed bandits down, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I got to know him pretty good. And over the years, we were robbing banks. And we went into the stripping business. And actually, the banks put us in that business.
Uh-huh.
You know, we didn't have no money.
Right.
We were just poor.
Yeah.
But then we start getting money. And when you start getting money,
You want more money.
and then you want more money.
I always laugh. I always got to, anybody listening out there who has no clue, strip mining. We're talking strip mining business.
Right. Yeah, right.
Well, see,
So you got, yeah, go ahead.
strip mine, like we bought cases of dynamite. We blew high wall, we're stripping
Uh-huh.
coal. So we could buy dynamite and ammonium nitrate, which, it takes dynamite to set that off. It takes a hell of a push. But anyhow, I wrote a book, okay, Inside the Vault.
Right.
And I explain all this in the book, how we got to where we are. And we just found it was so easy to do. In fact, I had my sister, she worked at Isley's in the Boardman Plaza. And I would take her to work. I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
When we started robbing the banks too. But I'd take her to work because worked at Isley's. She was 15, year under me, right? So I'm sitting there in the parking lot one time and I pulled in. I see this guy in the Mahoney Bank. He's down in the window there pulling all these bags out of a night drop outside. So I went back and I told my brother, I said, piss on robbing banks. We got to get that kind of money there. So it said on the window there, premises protected by Diebold. And I said, Diebold, what the hell is that? We didn't know nothing, right?
Yeah.
Ordinary telephone book, we find Diebold in Canton, Ohio. So we made a trip there
Okay.
at night. And
This is my favorite part of the story. Is getting just, if you want to learn how to beat a Diebold system, you go down to
that's
Canton.
where we went. So there's different buildings around there. First building we went in, we could see there was safes. Like you seen them big safes in Kroger's?
Yeah.
The big round doors on them.
Right.
Different stages of assembly, Some of the doors laying there.
Also, you went to the factory.
Yeah.
Right to the factory.
Okay. Oh, so you're watching how they put these things together.
Yeah.
Okay. So you broke in here? Is that you snuck in?
Well, you didn't have to break in.
Oh,
Went over a fence, right?
Oh, okay.
There was a guard shack there.
Yeah.
He didn't even move out of there. He just stayed there.
And these are the guys that are in charge of the so-called security for all these banks and stuff. And you can just walk in their plant practically.
Well, we didn't go in the main office.
Yeah,
where
right.
the big boys are.
Yeah.
We're just out there in the yard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we see this round door. It's about a 24-inch, I think. They're real thick and heavy. That's what they had on the night deposits. So we used a little two-wheeler and we stole that door. That door weighed 300-400 pounds. It's heavy duty. It's thick. And
So you guys robbed the company that made the safes
yeah,
and the alarms.
the round door.
Okay.
We took-
Now, you know what? That's some sharp thinking. I got to tell you, to me, that's like genius.
I don't think they expected it.
Yeah, definitely not. Okay, so continue on.
When
I
you
don't want to
see
interrupt
that
you
round
here.
door, how heavy it is and how big it is, and that's what they had on them nut drops, so nobody could, take them. So we had to learn about that, and so we took that home. That didn't take long. Now we have to find out about the alarm system. So we made another trip back to Diebold and for the alarm system. And this is the truth. We're going around. I got the flashlight. I'm looking through the windows, right? I look in there and I see this one room, and it's about a 2-foot by 3-foot or something. And I see all the stuff on it. I said, that looks like probably an alarm board. It was for workers to train them. So went in that building, looked around, sure enough, they even had wires running to a night drop. They had a night drop there, had wires running to it. They had it all set up to train them guys. So we just took the whole board. took the whole board out of there.
Well, their training program must have worked pretty well
Yeah.
because it was.
See, I wonder what the next day or the next week when these guys come in and they see that all their stuff is
They-
gone.
they knew
What
they got
do they think? Yeah.
So then I took it to a friend of ours that knew electronics, and we didn't know nothing. We didn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Right away, he started running his head. He was a smart guy. So he came right out with it. He told us how it's working and everything. So that's how we wind up building, which in my book, we called it the Boss Man because it did it,
Yeah.
the boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll be able to. Will the boss man be at the show, Amil?
The what?
Will the boss man be at the show?
No, the Boss Man is gone. But there's another one I'm going to bring there. It took down ADT lines back in them days.
Yeah.
This murdered ADT.
Uh-huh.
And ADT was a pretty good alarm,
Right. Right.
but it was good because nobody knew what was happening.
Yeah.
But
We'll get into all the nitty gritty of the, how to beat the alarms, how to get past. We'll get into all that on our show on.
Yeah, we don't want to
Friday.
give too much away. We want you to buy the
Well-
book. We want you to come out to the show because it's going to be a lot more in depth than just our conversation here
And
tonight.
we're calling it a master class with a master burglar. So it's like he'll teach you everybody how he did it back in the day.
And plus, we're going to have some Q&A with them, after the show.
Right, right.
So they'll be able to
Now,
ask some questions.
so now that you come in there with the boss man and he shows you how to do this, so now you got to make him a part of the crew, right? He's in
Well,
on it because,
no.
or he just,
Boss
or was
man-
he just, was the boss man just, he showed you and that was it and didn't
no.
didn't want to cut or
Tell him what the
anything?
boss man is.
The Boss Man, it's a little complicated.
Uh-huh.
I mean, to even operate.
Yeah.
It's a
You got to
box.
find.
You nicknamed the boss man is the okay.
tool.
See, I got a little off
It
there.
bypassed the alarm.
Oh, okay.
It bypassed-
But like the guy that you took it to that showed you the
I always
electronics.
gave him percentage of money.
Okay, I was
he
wondering.
built the boss
I
man
took good care of him.
Oh,
for Amil, and so Amil went to his buddy the electronics expert, and they built after studying the system.
to override
Yes.
the thing.
And then that
So-
was
so
what they used.
Okay, I was a little confused here. So you took the thing from Diebold, you stole their alarm like control panel or whatever,
Right.
and then you took it out to this guy, and this guy says, "Here's how we're going to hook the boss man up to it to override it."
Right.
Okay, I
Here's how
follow
the
you
Boss
now.
Man works.
Okay,
The main control box in banks with vaults is inside the vault. The only thing coming out of there is wires, telephone wires. You got to get into telephone wires, sort them out, which is easy. A little $5 amplifier does that because it's a ticking. It's ticking like your heart.
Uh-huh.
Tick, 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 tick. It was about 18 pulses a second, I think, as I remember, 16, 18 pulses a second. But it could drop some and the alarm wouldn't go off unless you made a dead kit. So that's what the boss man took care of.
I see.
So-
Okay, I'm following you now.
Yeah.
So once you find the wires you want, you got to hook onto them. Then you take it away from the building, clear in the woods, wherever you want to go, 300 feet, 400, it don't matter. And that's where you actually flip the switch on the boss man, which then takes care of the alarm coming out of the bank.
Wow.
Use a double pull switch. It's the alarm is stopped at the double pull. When you flip your switch, it cuts that out. Yours is in there automatic because you're producing the same thing, 18 pulses a second.
Wow.
And you're going to get your money.
Damn. Okay, so you figure this out. Now, did you practice on this beforehand? Or
Oh, yeah.
So you had this like set up,
Yeah.
and then when did you pull your first heist? When you just said, you know what, today's the day. This is what we're gonna do. Let's, because if I was you, and I'm sure you probably had to be ecstatic that you guys figured this out. You had to be like, here's the key to all this free money.
It went pretty easy.
So how did this first one go down? When did you finally decide, like, all right, we got to try this, we got to make it happen?
Yeah, well, we knew what happened because we had the control box too.
Uh-huh.
I think we paid $800 for it for an employee from Diebold. He's the one brought one out.
Uh-huh.
And my friend in Canton actually bought the box from Diebold. It was the alarm just like in the vault. It was perfect.
Wow.
So we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
And when we start busting into the vaults, we had the dynamite because we bought cases of it.
Yeah.
We experimented at the mine first. We knew what we were doing.
Uh-huh.
First bank vault we got, I ain't gonna tell you where it's at,
Okay.
but first bank vault we got, it went down like a clock. You hear it just like that, and the holes through it. I'll tell you something else. Did you ever watch the movie Heat?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heat, where they put water in the safe and blew it apart?
Yeah.
You know where they got that from? Me.
No kidding.
They had to, because nobody ever did that kind of stuff.
Was that Heat or was that The Score? I'm trying to remember.
Which one ever was.
Yeah.
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 They put the water in there. They had to get that from the FBI or something, probably, you know.
Right.
But
Amil was
Somebody
the
did a little
the water
research into
trick.
it.
we,
Yeah.
So did you now refresh me too? Now, did you put that like in the door? Or did you drill holes, or where did the water go, and what did it exactly do?
here's what you do. It's not for bank vaults, you
Uh-huh.
follow me?
Yeah.
But let's say your place here had a square door sitting back there, right? And you had jewelry in it.
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
Take the alarm off. You go in. You want to tip it on its back, because around the door, you start putting water, it's going to splash out.
Yeah.
But when you knock it over on its back with a pry bar,
Uh-huh.
now it's on its back. Drill a hole, not through the door, but you can if it ain't a tough one.
Yeah.
And that's where you fill it with water. And then you put a little bit of dynamite with a cap in there, or down in there, and touch it, and the door goes like that there. And the door,
And it doesn't even make a loud noise.
no, because the water muffles. The door goes like this here, flop it open. Don't go all the way because the water is out now. You follow me?
Now,
But
I follow you 100%. Now, did you ever think about going straight? I mean, you know, it sounds to me like you're a really smart man and that you figured all this stuff out. Did you ever think of like going to college? Was that ever in your plans or anything? Or did you just figure,
Work.
hey,
I
I'm
don't have to pay
self-employed?
taxes.
That damn IRS, man.
Well, they tried me, and I beat them too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you get on a roll doing this, right?
Yep.
Now, did you have to plan to not do it too often or cover your tracks? Did you want to not set a
We
pattern?
covered our tracks pretty good.
Uh-huh.
Okay, until I did the wrong thing and bringing the wrong guy on the score.
Isn't that always what happens when you bring the wrong guy in?
Right,
It
wrong
usually
guy.
happens from the
And
inside.
in my book, I explain all that.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
happened? I ran it down.
Uh-huh.
So no sense doing it here.
Right, right.
But that's the whole key. Keep your mouth shut. That FBI didn't know what's going on. They didn't know what's going on. Believe me.
Now, do you think with all the surveillance and stuff today that you would be able to do this, or would it be a
You know,
lot harder with all the cameras and everything else?
Oh, they brought the first cameras came out in Cleveland, Ohio. There on one of them streets. It was in the savings and loan. Cameras don't. If you know the cameras there, it's no problem.
Yeah.
If they hide the camera somewhere, okay. But you know, the cameras are okay. What they do, if say I burglarize this place here on the street,
Yeah.
they go up and down the street. People got cameras now. They go to all businesses and then they see a certain car and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to track.
That's why. Let me tell you something. And they know it.
Yeah.
We even had a railroad cart. They built a railroad cart
Yeah.
to ride on the rails.
Really?
That's right.
No kidding.
If that town's, if there's a town over there and the cops set out all night playing around, there's a railroad coming in there. We come on the railroad cart, almost up to the town where we want to said, pick it up. It's light, carry it in a truck, set it off in the weeds. Trains can go on by and everything. And then we walk the little distance where we got to go and do what we got to do. That's
You're a
how that works.
freaking genius, Amil.
Well,
You are really, you know what?
No.
Now Joe that runs this place here, he's kind of like a mad scientist type too. You can see he's in all kind of stuff like you might have the wheels turning in his head. You might have come down here today and you might have put this guy on an entirely different track right now.
well,
Hey, in a year or so, we might not see anything from the Youngstown studio anymore. Joe might be on to, no, man, I'll tell you what, you're a genius.
well, see,
Man.
I'm not a genius all by myself. I had my brother.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Uh-huh.
He's a smart guy. We work together.
Yeah.
You know, sometime he come up with a good idea, and sometime me, and we talk it out. The thing is, we got the money. When we go after that money, we get it. Okay. Very seldom. It had to be a freak accident not to get it.
Wow.
The feds know this.
Yeah. Now you went all across the country doing this, right? Or-
All you got to do back in them days, just take a ride any place you want to go. Indiana, I don't care where it is.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Grab a phone book, see where Sears and Roebuck is, J.C. Penney's. You go to those places, they drop big bags down in the night deposits.
Wow.
When you open them, you know how they are? You open them up, we'd cut across them, rip them open. All the money's counted for you, everything. Throw the checks to the side, take the cash. That's how it works.
Amazing. This is just completely amazing, man. You guys really had this all figured out.
Well,
Now, so you had to have a rush, like after the first couple, you really had to feel like you were onto something, right? Did it really get the adrenaline pumping? And when you were doing this, were you
my
pumped up?
adrenaline always pumped.
Uh-huh. And when you were counting, you probably really
Basically.
went up.
Especially opening safety deposit boxes.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot in them.
Okay. So now how did you open those? How did you crack those? Once you get into the safe and then you had to
Well,
pop those, and how did you go about doing that?
I'm bringing the popper right with me
Uh-huh.
to the show.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the popper with you.
Anybody can buy one.
Really?
Anybody
Oh,
can buy one.
Now this is worth the price of a ticket right here, you know?
You know what's great is he was 16 when he started doing this. So to me, as a storyteller,
Well,
I think of like Catch Me If You Can. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Frank Abagnale, right? There's a story about a guy who just as a young man, went on this life, and like you said, if Amil would have went straight, he could have, been a CEO or anything, whatever.
Right.
He was a very smart guy, very smart.
then I'd have went to jail.
Yeah, those are the guys that get arrested, right?
There you go.
And you were your own boss, man. You had your own company rolling. So now was that a little harder though when you had to get rid of the stuff from the safety deposit box that people had gold and all that
Oh,
stuff?
that's easy to fence out.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had trusted people for that too, as well, I would imagine.
See, everybody likes to make money,
Mm-hmm.
and they make money on what we steal.
Oh yeah.
That's
So
what it boils down to.
yeah. So they don't want to blow that because
No.
they want the
No.
golden goose, really, right?
Diamonds, gold, all kind of stuff in them boxes.
Uh-huh.
Even got heroin.
No
Wow.
kidding.
Yeah.
People stashing their drugs
Dude,
in those
yeah,
things.
that surprised me. I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
I just took it anyhow.
Yeah.
But it was heroin, and
If it's in a safe deposit box, it must be something.
it wound up in Cleveland, Ohio, with bikers. That's where that
Bikers.
wound up to.
How about that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
forget what we got for it, but
Yeah, you got something.
they were the bankers.
Yeah.
My friend up there, Butchie Sestorino, he knew them because they come to the barboat game and all that.
But Butchie was his like he just mentioned, he played Barboot and he had contacts with this guy up in Cleveland, mob connected guy. It was through him that the tip came through for the Laguna Niguel heist, the Richard Nixon tip, right?
That's how it happened.
Wow. That's just amazing, man. And so you're just
And real quick, if anybody doesn't know that story of it, by the way, the Laguna Niguel heist is kind of what that movie Finding Steve McQueen was about, and it's the big one that Amil's kind of and his crew became famous for. But that was a tip that came through from the someone in the Teamsters that Jimmy Hoffa had given President Nixon some slush funds, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And if you know, Jimmy Hoffa had been
No, here's what
imprisoned, and he
Here's
got
what
his
happened on it.
pardon.
Here's what happened on that. Jimmy Hoffa, he got convicted, and he wanted a pardon, and Nixon was the president of the United States at that time. So Jimmy Hoffa paid $3 million. That's what I'm told, okay, to get to Nixon. And it adds up to a lot more money than that if you
Mhm.
want to get back like these people that investigated it later, the boys in Washington, D.C. and all that. But anyhow, but he made it. So wait, I'm telling too much. They got to read the book.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to set up the general heist.
Yeah.
for people
So the
because-
general heist is you get a tip from somebody that had inside information on Jimmy Hoffa and that he had paid off Nixon, and you knew where this money was from this slush fund. Is pretty much what we need to know there. Now, how you got in there and all that, that's, we could read that part in the book, but
inside the vault.
inside the vault. Now that's incredible. So now when these things were going on, now
Well, let me finish.
oh,
one
okay.
thing
Yes.
first. I would have never wrote the book Inside the Vault if the FBI didn't go to my home in Mill Creek Park and stole my fingerprint. They went in my detached garage, and I got them dead on that. Page 144 in my book shows everything the FBI stole out of my garage. They gave me that piece of paper on their own under the Freedom of Information Act when I applied for records. Now, that's a big mess up for them, but that's their document. And what they did, they went in my garage, FBI agents, they lived in my neighbor's house. A neighbor that owed me $1,800. Nice guy. But they lived in that house, a single house, right across the street from my house. They watching me at my house. No question, that's why they were there. And this gets back to I'm jumping way ahead here.
Yeah.
The Lordstown Bank. I also burglarized the Lordstown Bank.
Close to home.
Yeah. And on the Lordstown Bank, when you read my book, you'll see what actually happened. There was over $500,000 or 450,000, something like that. But by that time, because somebody tried to burglarize a bank in Warren, it wasn't us.
Uh-huh.
It was a nut drop, probably one of them thieves from around Youngstown. And they set the alarm off. So Diebold changes their pulse count on their pulsar.
Oh.
They made it more sensitive. So when I strung the wire on Lordstown and then I flipped the switch, my radio man was across the road. He said, a call just came through. He said, alarm drop. Get out of there. Well, we were out of there already, clear back in the woods with the alarm box. So we just stood still right by the alarm box and watched him. Pretty soon, two cruisers pulled up. One cruiser pulled up, and then another one pulled up. They shine their light in the doors and everything, looking around. You can hear them talking on a walkie-talkie because we got the scanner on. We can hear them like they getting them. And he says, they said, wait, we got to call the president of the bank. So they called the president of the bank, and the president of the bank tells them, is the outside bell ringing? Because it was an outside bell.
Yeah.
So they look up at the outside bell. We're watching.
And you're hearing all this. You're standing right
we're
there.
watching them. We're watching. And they said, no, and it's not
That takes
ringing.
some nerve.
He said, well, it's a false alarm. We'll see him in the morning. But they didn't know we had put styrofoam in the alarm. The alarm was
bell,
dead. It was just funny. But that's
Oh,
where I
man.
went.
I mean, now that's amazing. That's amazing. So now, how do you think that the FBI got on to you now? Okay, first of all, they come to your house, they frame you up, they take this stuff illegally, and you end up getting framed up in the end. But how do you think they got on to you, or was there somebody
Sure.
squealing? Was there, was it just good investigation? They didn't have what they needed.
They
Was
didn't have
Nixon out after you, or putting these guys on your? How did they get on your trail?
From a snitch.
Oh, okay.
That Butchie Sestorino in Cleveland, I agreed to take him
Uh-huh.
to try to help him out. Well, and his partner, they were both snitches.
Yeah.
But one of them wanted to be an undercover snitch and not let nobody know it. But he finally come out. His name was Phil Christopher.
Uh-huh.
He's a snitch. And Charlie Breckles. Two petty thieves is all they were, believe me. But he was related to Butchie Sestorino and I agreed to take him, try to help him buy his way off of probation. And I think he was what, for a hijacking a truck or something?
Not sure.
Yeah, I think it was they pulled into a lot, but I ain't going to say because I'm not sure. But I will be sure by the time of that show. I will find out. But that's the way that went. Anyhow, bank vaults, concrete, they were easy. There's nothing hard about them. But takes a little bit of time, that's all.
Yeah.
You asked real quick if Nixon had put him on, the FBI on him. One of those documentaries that they made about this case, because they
can see him on TV.
They made several documentaries on the Laguna heist, and one of them said that even the FBI guy said it was the most FBI guys ever assigned to the one case, that Laguna heist at the time.
So they probably were on to it like, hey, why,
Some extra pressure.
Why do we have so many guys trying to see what's going on here?
Nixon was still in office.
Well, if you go to the FBI files and just put my name in there, Amil Dinsio, and you'll see a whole bunch of stuff. Even that reporter you're talking about out there, he did the one on masterminds. You will see these. You can actually see them on the television to review them. And when we do this, the show out here, I'm going to be handing that stuff out. And I made some easels too. And the easels will be put up there. Yeah. And you will see what the FBI had to do to get me. Not that I'm a genius. I'm not no genius. I don't claim to be one. But it was just that easy to steal money in them days. Think about going behind a bank, using a little $5 amplifier, find the phone line, and hook a 6-volt battery on it and go steal the money. That's how some of them alarms were in them days. A little 6-volt battery kills it.
That is, I just find that so amazing. Now, were there any times that you were a suspect and they were questioning you and stuff, or were you pretty much just out there just raking in the money?
They didn't know nothing. That's why I always wondered another thing too. What do they teach them in the FBI Academy? What do they teach them? How to steal? Because they come to my garage and did it.
Yeah.
That was FBI agents.
Yeah.
When you see page 144 in my book, you will see up the top it'll say SAC Los Angeles. Okay. You know what that SAC means?
No.
Special Agent Case. Okay. Every federal criminal trial like that they assign an agent to the case. In my case, it was Paul Chamberlain. One of the dirtiest agents they could possibly do. And that's all on my board when we go up there.
Paul is in some of those documentaries as well. And, there's gives his point of view in there too.
So you were also very meticulous about not leaving any clues at the scene, anything like that. You were out of sight, never never dropped the glove. Now, did you wear gloves this whole time too? Yep. No fingerprints.
Put them in your pocket.
He did tell me that, they wore the masks too, and they sweat so much that if today, he said there'd be, if they did DNA back then, they would have caught him quick.
Yeah. Well,
Now, were you cool and calm when you were doing these, or were you, we got to get this done? And,
well, we knew we had monitors on, we knew what the cops were doing.
Yeah.
We knew all that all the time. Like Harry, my nephew, in that Laguna heist. Mm-hmm. We had an apartment there, and he was there, and he was in touch with us all the time.
Lookout.
Yeah, it was nothing to it. My brother-in-law, Chuck Milligan, he'd be on a hillside there looking at the whole thing. It was a sitting duck. Most of them are that we do.
And probably the smaller towns were probably really easy, huh?
Oh yeah, but you don't get the money.
So like you said, you got to go where there's a Sears and a Penny's and this and that.
What they do to most of them night drops, they're in the front by the front window in the front. So
yeah.
they could use them.
Yeah.
They'll have a mirror inside for the cops to take a look in that mirror, and it'll be shining down at the door of the night drop because we drilled it open from inside. So that's what they have. But when you got an outside man watching for you, and they said, we always would say, mother, mother's coming by, mother's coming by, you know, we just get back. The mirror's looking down there like that there. They drive by.
It's like the
I don't
cops
even
are
think they look
coming.
at the mirror.
Now that had to take nerves of steel, huh? You're inside this bank and
Well,
there's
we
a
had
cop
hole
car.
we had a hole to go out if we needed it.
Yeah. Oh, you can get out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, the question about like the adrenaline and that kind of thing. It's, you know, Amil, when he started off as a young man at 16, they went into these places with a gun and stick them up.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That's a lot different. They realized that wasn't what they wanted to do. Instead, they started doing these burglaries, these heists where at night where there's nobody in there. So, you know, he could be more relaxed while he did it. And they had it under control where they controlled the situation. So it's a much different dynamic.
Yeah, I could see it. That would probably be the way to go because you don't know if somebody's going to shoot you or now that's when you start getting, you know, eyewitnesses. Then you start getting cars and getaway cars and you start adding all kinds of clues to that. And then, you know, what happens if something goes wrong and you end up shooting somebody or somebody gets shot? Now you're really in trouble.
Well,
Plus, there was more money, right, Amil?
yeah,
More money in the vault than there is in the teller drawers.
when we were heisting them banks, we did it so fast you would never believe it.
No kidding.
Yeah, we'd never believe it. I was really in shape.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you're still in good shape. How old are
I
you?
was really in shape.
You
Right
know.
now I'm 87.
87. And look
Yeah.
at this guy, man. I mean, he's slim, he's trim, he's in good shape. He's still smart as a whip, man. I mean, you know, this guy's out telling all these stories and writing books and
When I
everything.
come through the door, my brother's right behind me with a sawed off. Right there like that there, and nobody moved. I
Uh-huh.
tell him, hit the floor. I bail right up over the counter. Head cashier, that's the one you want to get first. It's
Yes.
right by the bowl.
Uh-huh.
It's got the deep drawers, $100 bills down in there, 50s. And that's the main one. You do like this with the money. If it don't bend, throw it on the floor because that's the one that has the red dye
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
gas. Just
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
You tell immediately, just throw it on the floor. And you go in there.
You know, there's a question. I see somebody on there. They said, you know, why would you promote this stuff? Right.
Yeah.
So I just want to, you know, respond to that real quick and say, listen, you know, these are the things people make movies out of. There's so many movies you've seen about bank robbers and bank heists. It's one of the most prevailing subgenres of film and entertainment, right?
Right.
People are fascinated with this stuff, right? So, you know, how often are you going to get Amil served his time? Amil did a lot of time behind bars, right? How many years did you
We're
do?
going to get together on that too.
Real quick,
I've been in jail 35 years.
35 years of his life. So Amil's paid the price. Amil's done his time. How many times are you going to be able to talk to somebody who's lived that life, who can tell that story now that, you know, it's in the rear view, right? And everything's been, you know, what happened. Jimmy and I, we do these podcasts about the mob history, and we answer a lot of the same questions, you know, right?
Mhm.
Why do you guys talk about this stuff? Those kind of things. It's history. It's this stuff happened, and it's also just happens to be fascinating. I'm sorry.
Oh, it
But-
is.
yeah.
It is. I mean, and then when you look at all the mob movies and the Sopranos and all this stuff is fascinating. And it even goes back further to Jesse James and Bonnie and Clyde and this is just like human nature that people find this stuff fascinating. Like this story here, this is the only place you're going to hear this from this man right here.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing that here's this kid out in Goshen, you know, and gets a job at a strip mine and figures this all out. And I mean, who would have thought to go to Diebold and break into their company? I mean,
The
to
ballsy
me,
move.
Yeah, definitely.
Good move.
I thought so too.
Well, you know, the other thing too is, you know, there's not a lot of these guys left like this. right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Youngstown in this area and the history that this area has, he's a Youngstown legend, right?
Right.
There's not too many of them left.
No.
So when you get the chance to talk to these people and hear these stories, you take the chance because you may never get them again, right? So
Absolutely.
you take them when you can get them.
Absolutely.
It's also a different era. We're not saying anything, you know, nobody should go out and try to rob a bank today. You'd be a fool.
Yeah.
With the kind of, you know, it's a different era. with security and everything else. Like Emil was saying, back then they had no security. People weren't trying to do bank jobs back then. So it was very easy for Emil and these guys to figure it out and get through. Not very, popping the back latch of a bank door when you were 16. That's not how it is anymore. So don't go out and try to commit any of these burglaries, guys. We do not recommend those.
And you know what? With all the plastic too, you would probably imagine that there's not as much money in these banks as there used to be.
Today is no good at all. No good.
Everybody's using plastic for everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
Everything's direct deposit and everything. There's no money. There's no money. You'd starve.
Anytime you go to a bank now, if you want like more than $5,000 cash, you got to make an appointment and come back because they don't keep that kind of money on you.
Right.
You got no money.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing too. This is a bygone era. And this is, I personally find this fascinating. I think this is fascinating. I think all the stories, stories about the mob in Youngstown and Lenny Strollo and everybody, I think those stories, there's just that certain amount of interest in it. It's not like you're, I'm sure nobody's sitting here watching this podcast going, hey, I think I'm going to go be a bank robber.
I wouldn't advise it.
I'll tell you what's funny. So when I was growing up as a kid, I always wanted to be, of course, like my Uncle Joe, he wanted to be in the mob and all that. And I tried my hand at being a criminal and it didn't fare out too well. So I went the other way, thank God.
Yeah.
But it's just a fascinating history. And like Emil says, you can't even trust law enforcement. Like he had the Fed setting him up.
Mm-hmm.
We had feds on the payroll here in Youngstown that would do those same kind of things. Right. So it's not a far-fetched to believe that the feds aren't capable of it, right? Because
not at all. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. And this is so simple. What the bank in Laguna Niguel had on it. It's not even an alarm. It's what it's called. The theory of the McCullough loop. Okay? That's what it is. You can pick up your phone right now, ask them about the McCullough loop. The color loop is just like your place here. The alarm control box set over here, loop goes through that door, round the windows, back door or whatever. Cut that loop in a place, the alarm goes off, right? It's a loop. That's what that stupid bank had. That McCullough loop. It's called a circuit alarm. It ain't no good at all.
You know what? It's almost like you guys had it coming in a twisted way. It's like, if this is all you got, you're almost inviting this man to come and do it.
Then look
You
at
ever
it
see
too.
the doors laced? At lace coming down on
Yeah.
there? You can walk by that door on the way out with a key, scratch it. Scratch across that lead, because that's what it is. Now you separate it. The alarm will go off at ADT right now. When you do that, even in the daytime, they monitored day and night. And they do that for when you close your business here today, right? And you try to set your alarm, it ain't going to set because it's cut over there. And they don't even know. But what they do is send a man out in the daytime before you close, and then he finds it. See, just little simple things like that.
Jeez.
Those,
Now, after you go through your whole thing, you pay your dues and everything. And now, did you get to the point? Did you ever become like a consultant to these people and help them build a better mousetrap?
No.
Oh, you weren't like, hey, here's how we. Yeah, so you kept that to yourself. Then you didn't come out there and say, oh, I was a cyber hacker, and now I'm going to go work for an internet company and show them how not to do. That's probably, you know what, you were like a modern day or early day cyber hacker, because now that's how people are robbing banks and getting money and stuff. Like Joe here, what do you got, Joe? You know what? We're sitting here saying we probably shouldn't do these kind of shows because it might make people figure stuff out. Joe is probably in the back room right now with some kind of thing going on.
Well, see, the only thing protects a bank is the alarm system in them days, and
Yeah,
today too.
yeah.
The vault is nothing to go through there. It was. It's concrete, and you start chipping on the concrete, it breaks up. And when you stick, in my book, I'll show you how we even blew the holes. When you go down in the middle of that 18 inches of concrete, put a little jar down there, falls apart. It's no big deal, really.
Who would have thought? I would have thought that doing something like this would have been like just. Now you got guys. What do you think about these guys that rob the ATM machines? Is that even worth it, or is that too much work? It sounds to me like what these guys do to steal an ATM machine and have to crack it and beat it up and everything. It seems to me like that would be way too much work, and you guys were pulling off bank heists with less effort than that.
Yeah. I've opened a couple of them when I was in the bank.
Uh-huh.
Because they were already in the bank through the wall.
Yeah. You just pop in there and see what's in
you
there.
take all the money and how much you got? Not much in them.
Yeah, probably not even worth it.
There's more in them than there is the ones that's sitting outside, like in the corner of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones inside the bank.
Yeah,
There's
you
more.
got to figure that. You know, there's somebody tried to rob that one on Midlothian.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago.
They got buzzed. They had ripped off. I was working that night and we came across the scanner, and it was they were following them from 680 down Midlothian because they went out and they stole a couple vans, and the vans that they stole had
GPS.
tracker, GPS on it. And so
Yes.
they literally the guy knew that they reported it stolen, so they watched these guys go all the way down 680 and get off and go down Midlothian. They knew right where they were.
They get them?
Oh yeah.
And then one of the guys, well, a few of them ran, and they caught one of them, and he immediately copped and said that they were responsible for doing a bunch of these around Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
And so,
I always thought that'd be way too much work.
Yeah.
Or you drive a car through the building to get it, and then you got 5 guys trying to throw this thing into a truck, and why they try to do that one, that's beyond me.
And how do you
at that point, I think I would just get a job.
At that point, how do you even know how much money's in there?
Yeah.
What if it's almost empty? You know?
Yeah. Or how much do they really put in those machines? Right. Okay, say you got a little convenience store, maybe you put $300 in at a time, $400 or something. How much money could possibly people be going through there? Yeah.
One of the things that didn't shock me, but it was fascinating to learn through all the research that I've done, was the Youngstown had, a lot of thieves, a lot of guys who went out and did heists of grocery stores, department stores. Amil and his crew, they went big. They were the only guys doing banks. Right, bank vaults. There was nobody else doing bank vaults. But around Youngstown, there was other guys could beat ADT security, right?
Right.
Different, like I said, mostly these kind of stores, and they would get these little scores. A lot of these guys, but there was a ton of these guys. Youngstown had one of the biggest kind of network of those guys. That was fascinating to learn. So
yeah, my uncle on my mother's side used to tell me the story about how they used to rob department stores. They'd get a sledgehammer and they'd get the head and they'd make it out of lead, and they'd get one of those big box trucks with the door on the side. They open the door up, pull right up next to the building. They knock a hole in the block wall with the lead sledgehammer, go right in that way.
Oh yeah, they used to do that everywhere, man. Just bust a hole in the wall and be gone in no time flat, man. Yeah. And that's something we almost invented it. We might have not invented it in Youngstown, but boy, we sure perfected it, or we sure popularized it. That's for sure. So that's just some crazy stuff. So Amil, was there one big heist you were planning after this one, or what was your next thing, or how far ahead did you plan these? And was there something you were thinking it was going to be bigger than this one that you did out in California?
See, California wasn't the biggest we did.
Oh, okay.
It was big, but it wasn't the biggest.
Uh-huh.
FBI knows it.
Yeah.
They know everything.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody robs a bank, even if he comes in through the top, any way you want to see it, go on the FBI files, go right down through there and you watch, right? Say you rob the bank you always come in the top. This goes right up to Washington, D.C. in the FBI files. Entry was made in this bank through the roof. Now, 2 months later, someone entries through the roof. That goes up there, right? Now they know they're accumulating. Or they went through the back, like you said, with a sledgehammer through the blocks. See, they keep track of all that. That's why you're going to see at the theater here Friday. My easels, what the FBI did in our case to grab us, okay? It's amazing. It's worth the price of the ticket just to see my easels, what they do, how they do it. Not only did they rob my garage, they took ordinary pictures because the camera overshot it and photographed something below it. So they tear it off, the picture at the bottom. Where's my attorneys? Not one time did they challenge that part, but that ain't the big part. That boiled down to where they searched the car in California, which is all in my book with pictures and all. They changed the shotgun in the picture. How do you like that one?
Wow.
Thought they could get away with it. And they almost got away with it. But I look at all that stuff, and you can really see it if you really concentrate. From a pump shotgun to an automatic. How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got a picture of him. I gave him to him.
He gave me a lot of stuff, and we'll show, Amil, he'll get to tell his side of it at the Robbins Theater Friday, February 9th. We encourage everybody to get tickets at the box office, or call them, go on their website, robbinstheater.com. Inside the vault, a master class with a master burglar.
It is going to be an interesting, fascinating night. If you're into true crime, and if you're a fan of things like Dateline and all those other kind of shows, this is one for you. And you're going to see the man from Youngstown live and in person. Amil, I want to thank you for taking some time out here with us today. A fascinating story, and I can't wait to hear you get more in depth coming up this weekend. Okay. So, where can they find more information on? Everybody here give where we can find more information about you guys, what you all got going on, and then we'll wrap it up.
I'm going to have over 100 books there. You just buy a book. The books are cheap. Books are cheap, but you get a knowledge out of them. You see what the FBI did. Page 144 is the key.
Yeah, Amil will sign the books for you guys there. He'll have signed, copies. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, Youngstown Mob Talk, from Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any of those places, or YouTube. We have a channel on YouTube with video you can watch. We got hours and hours of content.
Tons of content.
Tons of stuff on there. So, the documentary Youngstown Still Standing, all kinds of old news clips. So if you want to learn more about Youngstown mob history, you got to find us on YouTube, amazing podcast company. So.
And you can also check us out on Facebook group, Youngstown Mob. That's Youngstown Mob on the Facebook group. And we're also Pittsburgh Mob as well. So check us out on Facebook. Over 31,000 members. If you're not a member yet, what are you waiting for?
Get on there. I am. I love it. All right. James Naples, Johnny Ciccatelli, and the legend, the living legend, who you'll have a chance to meet and talk to this Friday, Amil Dinsio. Amil, thanks for taking some time out with us, guys. Great time, and I hope we do it again real soon. Maybe we'll talk some other different subjects and stuff. Once again, Amil, fascinating story. Guys, keep up the good work with what you do. People love it, and we're going to wrap things up. We want to thank our producer tonight, Joe Danier, for running the show, and we just want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday night.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube